Okay, this is going to be the first video in Unit 8. This is going to be on quad graphs and graph characteristics. I want to start is if the quadratic graph has already been given to you. I want to talk about these characteristics. The vertex is this number right here, or this point right here. It's where the quadratic meets. So for us here, that would be 1 over -4 down. Okay, now if your graph looks like this, it has a minimum value. If it looks like this, it has a maximum value. So in our case, this would be a minimum, okay? The A being positive or negative, okay? If it's like this, the A is positive. If it's like this, the A is negative, okay? So in this case, the A would be positive, okay? The axis of symmetry is x equals, and whatever the x coordinate is of your vertex, okay? So in this example, my x coordinate is 1, so my axis of symmetry is x equals 1. The x-intercepts is where the graph crosses or touches the x-axis, okay? All right? And it is written as x equals. So this touches at x equals -1. It also touches at x equals 3. Okay, so those would be the x-intercepts. The y-intercepts is where it crosses or touches the y-axis. So in this case, and it's going to be a y equals answer. So this crosses at 1, 2, -3. So that is going to be y equals -3 for the y-intercept. Okay. Now the domain and range. Here's what domain means. Domain means we find the smallest x and the biggest x, okay? Range, oh, whoops. Range means we find the smallest y and the biggest y. Okay, now, in order to do that, we have to label a couple things. We have to label our vertex, and we got to label our arrows, okay? All right? Now, the arrows is the trickiest part. My vertex is easy. 1, -4. Okay? That's easy. The arrows. Here's how you label your arrows, okay? If it's the left arrow, you put -infinity for the x coordinate. If it is a right arrow, you put +infinity for the x coordinate. If the arrow is going up, you put +infinity, and if the arrow is going down, you put -infinity, okay? So, here's how you figure out left and right arrows. Hold up the L. This is the furthest left, so that would be -infinity for the x, and this is the right arrow, so that's going to be +infinity. Left, right. Now, what's this arrow doing? That's the second point. This arrow is pointing up, so it is positive. This arrow is pointing up, so it's positive. Now, the whole infinity means like a big, big number. So if you want to think of infinity like -100 and 100, that might help you figure it out. So when we do the smallest x value, all right, remember, this is x, this is x, this is x. Which one of these is the smallest? That is going to be -infinity. So I put it with a curved bracket. Now, for the biggest x, what's the biggest out of that? That would be that one, be like +100. Okay, so I put a curved bracket. That's the domain. And what that means is, this means all real numbers. And you're going to hear that expression used before. But you can just put -infinity to infinity. The range is the y values. So let's look at these. What's the smallest y value? I got infinity, infinity, and -4. Now, the smallest y value is going to be -4. And since it is a number, we put a little closed bracket there, okay? What's my biggest y value? The biggest y value is a tie for infinity, okay? So I put something like that, -infinity or -4 to infinity. So for your infinities, okay, all right, -infinity, infinity, put curved brackets. Curved brackets. For our numbers, we put closed brackets or square brackets. Okay, let's do another example together. Okay, let's do another example. Now we got this. Okay, my vertex here, and I'm going to go ahead and label it, is -2, +1. Now, since this is like this would be a max, and my A would be negative. Okay, my axis of symmetry is x equals, and whatever that value is. The x-intercept, it crosses at -3, and it crosses at -1. Okay, my y-intercept crosses a 1, 2, -3 right there. Okay, so it'd be y equals -3. So the y-intercept is right here. Okay, so my domain, I've got that labeled. Let's label our arrows now. Okay, now which arrow? This is the left arrow, negative. This is the right arrow. What's this arrow doing? Going down. This arrow is also going down. Okay, so if I look at these things, the smallest, let's do the domain, smallest of the x values, negative, infinity, -2, or infinity. That would be negative infinity. The biggest of the x values, negative infinity, 1, and negative infinity. Which one's the x values, negative infinity, -2, or infinity. The biggest would also be infinity. Okay? For the y values, let's do the range now. Y, y, and y. What's my smallest y value of these three? It would be negative infinity. What is the biggest y value of these three? It would be 1. Okay? All right, closed bracket. Okay? So that is the range. Okay? Now, we're also going to talk about how do you make the graph. Okay? Now, they don't give us the graph, we have to make it. Okay, so I'm going to show this in Desmos, okay? And I'm going to show this in Casio. All right, very simply in Desmos, okay, what I want to do, okay, I do y equals, okay, I'm going to type in my function, I squared, okay? I can just go ahead and use x instead. X, the exponent of 2, okay, minus x, all right, minus 6, okay? All right, now, all right, I'm going to go expand this just a little bit so I can see it a little bit better. All right, now, I want to go ahead and find these things, okay? If I click right here, it tells me what the vertex is. Okay, if you click there, it tells you the vertex. It's 0.5, -6.25. 0.5, -6.25. So I graph that. Okay, 0.5, -6.25, which would be right there. Okay, all right. I can find the y-intercept that's also highlighted there. My y-intercept is y equals -6, so I can graph that as well. So I'm sort of like finding this stuff as I go. Okay. I can also go ahead and find the x-intercept. That's at -2, and I have another one there at 3. So -2 and 3, okay? All right, and then I can just go ahead and draw my graph. If you want to, you can get sort of particular and see the different points along the way, okay? But we're not gonna really worry about that. So I just go ahead and graph, boom, I graph this like this, okay? Now, I can easily see this has a minimum value, and the A is going to be positive. My axis of symmetry is x equals 0.5, okay? My domain, once again, I'm going to label, all right, I got 0.5, -6.25, okay? So I'm going to label, this would be left arrow, this would be right arrow. This is going up, so positive, this is going up. So let's start with the domain. What is the smallest of those x values? Negative infinity. What's the biggest of these? That would be positive infinity. Okay? My range, now I'm going to do the y coordinates. Y, y, and y. The smallest of all those y values is going to be -6.25. And I'm going to go ahead and put a closed bracket there. Okay? The biggest one would be infinity. Okay? And that's how I find my stuff. All right? From a Casio standpoint, you say, Mr. Evans, how do we do this in Casio? Okay, in Casio, it's just as easy. I go to graph, okay? I'm gonna type in, the y's already there for you, okay? So I can just use this little x right here, x, exponent 2 minus x minus 6. So I'm going to use x instead of I. All right, and I draw. I may have to zoom out a little bit. Okay? All right, now, all the characteristics for Casio are real easy. I go to G-solve, okay? Now, I pick out my minimum and maximum. That is a minimum. And as you can see, it just gives me my minimum. I can go G-solve, and I can find my y-intercept, which is right here. Boom, y equals -6, all right? Now, in Casio, root means x-intercept, all right? So, when I select that, it shows me -2. Now, when I want to go over there, I just hit the keypad over, and I get 3, okay? All right, that's how easy that is, all right? Let's do another one together, all right? So, let's start this one off in Casio. We'll go a little bit different of a direction, all right? So I got -x squared plus 6x minus 5. Draw. Okay, this is the graph I have. All right, I go to G-solve. Okay, now this would be a maximum. Okay, so it's 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4 over. So 3, 4. I'm going to go ahead and label that. That's easy. That's my vertex. I've automatically found that that's a maximum, and I know the A will be negative there. Okay, and that's pretty simple because what the A is there is just that sign. Okay, that's what they're talking about when they say that the A value is negative. Okay, now G-solve, I can find the y-intercept. That is at -5. Okay, then to find the x-intercept, G-solve root. One of those is at x equals 1. And I hit over, I get the other one, x equals 5. All right? X equals 1, x equals 5. Okay, I can just connect the dots. All right, my axis of symmetry is x equals with a 3. Okay, my domain, I just got to label these arrows now. Left arrow, positive for right arrow. This one is going down, so negative. This one's going down from negative. Okay, so my smallest of the x values, x, x, and x, would be -infinity. My biggest of these x values would be infinity. All right, for my y values now, y, y, and y. Okay, my smallest y value is -infinity. My biggest y value is 4, close bracket. Okay, all right, so that's how simple that is. You can sort of just go and pick that up from there, okay? All right, so what I want to do, okay, because I only go one at a time, I want to pause this video. If you're working in Go Formative, you can go ahead and work in Go Formative. That's not a problem. Okay, you'll see all 4, but I'm going to go one video at a time. So pause, this would be the first one you would do. All right, this would be -1, 3, okay? So it'd be vertex is -1 and 3. This is a minimum with a positive value there, okay? My axis of symmetry at x equals -1. X-intercept, notice, this doesn't touch the x-axis. So I would have none for an answer there. My y-intercept, where does it touch on the y-axis? It touches at 4. Okay, so if I label this is -infinity, positive, both arrows going up. Okay, x, x, and x. The smallest of all those is -infinity. The biggest would be positive. Okay, for my range, y, y, and y. What's the smallest of those ones? That would be, sorry, I shouldn't have put that there. Should be 3, and my biggest one would be infinity. Okay. All right. Let's go to this problem. Okay. All right. I'm going to label my vertex. That's going to be 1 over, let's say 4 up. Okay. So I got 1, 4. That would be a max. The A would be minus. Axis symmetry, x equals 1. X-intercept touches at -1, touches at 3. -1 and 3. My y-intercept touches at 3. All right, my domain. Left, right. Both arrows are going down. So my smallest x value, x, x, and x, -infinity, 1, and infinity would be -infinity. Biggest would be positive infinity. My range, my smallest y value would be -infinity, my biggest y value would be 4. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and do this one. Now, I don't have the graph, I have to make it. I'll make one with Desmos and one with Casio. Let's start with Casio here. Okay, so I would do, actually, let's do this one with Desmos. Okay, so what I would do with this, let's go ahead and, oops. All right, this is negative, I'm gonna use x squared. So negative x exponent 2, click over here. It's an export, minus 4x plus 5, minus 4x plus 5. Okay, I can just click right on the vertex and it tells me x is negative 2 and 9. So negative 2 over 9 up. So x equals negative 2 and 9. Okay. I can click on the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 5. Okay. I can click on the x-intercepts. They're negative 5 and 1. Pretty easy then to draw the graph. Oh, it's terrible drawing. Okay, this is negative 2 and 9. This is, we'll get to that in a second. That's a maximum value. The A is negative, and that's easy to see because it's a minus there. Okay, axis of symmetry would be x equals and whatever the x-axis is. The domain, left, right. Both arrows pointing down. Okay, so let's do the domain. X, x, and x. My smallest x value right here is negative infinity, and the biggest is positive. Okay. My range. My smallest y value is negative infinity. The biggest y value would be 9, closed bracket. Okay? Let me do the next one in Casio. Okay? Let's do this next one in Casio. All right? So I got 2x squared minus 3x minus 9. Okay? Draw it. Okay? This is the picture I have. All right? G-solve, this will be a minimum. I got 0.75, negative 10.125. 0.75, negative 10.125. So 0.75, negative, that'll be somewhere right there, okay? All right, G-solve, let's find the y-intercept. That would be negative 9, which would be right here. So y-intercept equals negative 9, all right? G-solve, now I gotta find the x-intercepts. I'm gonna do root, which is negative 1.5, okay? And I hit over to get the other one, it's going to be 3. So x equals negative 1.5, x equals 3. Okay, here's what my picture looks like. All right, that's going to be negative infinity, positive. Both arrows now going up. Let's answer some more of these questions. This is a minimum. You can see this number is positive there. X equals, it's whatever the x coordinate is there. The domain, let's make sure I labeled this. This is 0.75, negative 10.125. Okay. Smallest x value is negative infinity. And the biggest x value of those would be positive. My range, my smallest of the y values would be negative 10.125. And my biggest would be infinity. Okay. So that is the first lesson on graphing, all right, and finding characteristics of quadratics.